It's, I'm sorry, what was it? Yud Zion, hey.
Correct.
With regard to a field in which a grave was lost, and a house with an upper story which was built on it, if the doorway of the upper story was directly above the doorway of the house, the upper story remains tahor. But if not, the upper story remains tameh. Soil of a base of pras and soil from outside the land of Israel that arrive in vegetables combine with when there is such as when there as much as the seal of packing sacks. These are the words of Reb Eliezer. The Chachamim say only when the amount equals the seal of packing sacks in one place. Rabbi Yehuda says it used to happen that letters came from overseas to the sons of the Kohanim Gedolim, and they had on them the equivalent of a saw or two of seals. Yet the Kohanim were not concerned that they might be tamei. How do we harvest the grapes of a Beit Kapras? First, we must sprinkle on every person and all utensils that were used in the harvest, and we repeat the sprinkling and then pick and remove the grapes from the base of pras. Other people then receive the grapes and transport them to the press. If these people touch those, they become tamei. This is according to Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says he holds the sickle with palm base, or he reaps with a sharp stone and then places the grapes into an olive pressing basket and brings them to press. Rabbi Yossi says, under work circumstances are these things said. When a vineyard becomes a base kapras, however, if someone planted a base of pras, the grapes must be sold in the market. There are three types of base of pras. One who plows a grave where the law is that any special species of trees that can be planted, but no seeds can be sown except for seeds from plants that are cut. And if he pulled out the plant, he piles produce under the field itself and sifts it through two sifters. These are the words of Rav Meir. However, the Chachamim say grain with two sifters and legumes with three sifters, the straw and the bean chaff are then burned. The field spreads tumah through touch or carrying, but does not render tamei through the ohel.
Okay, so that was just the regular base of price that we just learned about now. Second type is the sadeh avad kever besocha. So we've got a field, we know somebody was buried in it, but we've lost the marker. Okay, nizra is called zera. Now this one you're allowed to plant grain in. Okay, that's fine because anyone who works in the field will of course become tamei, but that's something you can deal with. But the grain, unless it gets wet, will remain tahor. So as long as you harvest it and put it out, and you're not concerned that the roots are going to rip up a piece of bone or something like that. That's not because the roots don't penetrate deep. On the other hand, you can't plant saplings because the roots of the tree grow deep, and it's quite possible that there's going to pop up something to the surface. And if there are trees already planted in the field, then you may not even keep them. You have to actually cut down the trees that are in the field. Okay. Unless it's just a shade tree that doesn't make fruit. Okay. Why? Because we don't want people to come into the field to get the shade from the tree, and especially if they're going in to pick fruit and whatever. Then remember the tree creates Thomas Ohel. Okay, but a mug of masa over Ohel. That's the thing of this thing over here. So you have a full-on grave, which means we've got a full body, and that's going to create an Ohel. So that's why we don't want trees in this field. So and even so, you may not plant any tree. I think there are different interpretations, but it seems to make sense from the way it's written that if you have an existing shade tree in that field, you're allowed to keep it, but you're not allowed to plant a shade tree in that field. Okay, that is the
I have to drink. I'm sorry, I have to keep drinking this water while you're talking because of my blood.
You don't need to apologize for drinking.
I'm not crazy about drinking so much, but
okay. Stay bochin. So the third type of field is called a weeping field. Now this one is
what kind of field? A wailing field.
Wailing field. Weeping. So this is got multiple interpretations of what it is and why it's listed with the along with the base of pras. I mean, All right, let me just take a look at all the different
I saw it. I saw them. I saw them. It's unusual.
so there's one is where you the funeral procession goes through this field on the way to the cemetery, and they stop, and this is one of the stopping points for wailing. Okay, and there's one thing that we say is that there's because of why are we concerned about Tumah? Because the Baalim, the people who originally owned this field, have given up on it because it's now become a public thoroughfare, and they use it now um for funerals, for funeral processions. Okay, and now we're concerned that if the mace was not in good shape, and maybe a limb dropped off there and somebody didn't notice. Okay.
Right.
Also, another interpretation is that it's a place that's still far from the basic pharos. There's no the parish here is that it's not because of a chashash of tumah in the sadeh, but why Chamim asked people to plant any trees in it is not because of is only because of chashash gezel harabim, because it's the Baalim have given up on it, and therefore it's muhsak for use by the public. And if you plant trees over there, it's like somebody coming to it's damaging to the people who are coming through. So that's why it's prohibited. And the Rambam writes about this, that it's the closest place to the cemetery where people would sit and make hespedim. And again, because of Tumah, and the reason is because of Tumah, who karov the basic forest. So it's possible that somebody came from afar and actually buried somebody, and on the sly, secretly buried somebody in this area because it's close to the cemetery. Okay. So this is the stay bochim. Loni tas veloni zras. No, you may not plant anything in this field. Okay. Tahor. However, the dust from this field is tahor. It's not such a huge chashash that somebody was buried there, or that something got mixed up inside here. And if you wanted to gather clay, if it was, if you want to gather clay to make an oven for kodesh, yeah, you can do that. The clay is not considered potentially tameh. Okay, now this now that we switch into the discussion of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai is no longer talking just about the stay bochin, it's talking about a regular base of pras. So we're switching context back and say, okay, what happens if somebody went through this field? He didn't realize it was a base of pras. He walked through the field, and now he wants to know, is he tamei or is he not? Because for different reasons. So Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai agree that if he was on his way to make a korban pesach, bodkin, what we must do is we must go back and check the field. We'll tell you. We'll mention in a minute how you check the field. But they agree that the importance of the korban pesach, it's a positive mitzvah that has kares. If you don't do it, right. It's very important to find out, is he really tamei or not? Okay, so they're in agreement. But ein bodkim truma. But if you Stam just got a kohen who walked through the field and said, "Oops, am I allowed to eat my truma?" We're not going to check the field for him. We're going to say, "You're tamei. You're tamei. Just assume you're tamei. Go through your 7-day process, and then you can eat your truma. It's not so important that he has to eat his truma. Let him eat chulin." Mm-hmm. Everyone's in agreement over here. But for a Nazir, there's machlokes. Beis Shammai Omrim Bodkin say, no, we must check. Is he really tamei? Does he have to restart his counts? Does he have to bring a korban, etc.? Well, Beis Hillel Omrim Ein Bodkin. So Beis Hillel over here say, no, forget about checking this field. Just let him assume that he's tamei. So it's not 100% clear if Beis Hillel said that he should also bring his korbanos out of Safek, but mistama, it's still being that it's a suffix, he would have to they would have to go lechumra on all counts. That he would have to restart his count as a nazir, because he's.
Right.
But bringing a korban from the suffix, I don't think they would. I don't think they would permit. Let's just see if what the commentary says. Right. Yeah. אבל אינו מגלח שבין נמצא עצם כסור או בין נמצא טמא, אבל אין מגלח ואינו מביא korban. Right? He doesn't shave and he doesn't bring a korban because his tumah is only from a safek. Although that's what the Rambam says. There are other Mefarshim who say the other way, that they say no, you must act as if you use Vadai Tameh. Okay. Okay, what's the checking procedure if somebody is Safek Tameh from the if it's the Korban Pesach, or according to Beis Hillel for a Nazir, but it's according to Beis Shammai for a Nazir. Maybe Esafar Shehu Yachol Lasito. So along the path that he walked, you basically take a shovel and start scraping up all of the loose soil in that area. Everything that's loose now that he could have moved or disturbed with his feet, because even disturbing something with your feet by moving it is going to make you tameh. Okay. And you stick it into a fine sieve, and you crush it and push it through the sieve. So you got to sift all of this dust over here, and if you find a bone, then we assume that he's tameh, and if not, we can assume he's tahor.
Okay.
Okay, okay, now how to solve the problem of a base of pras that's just stuck there? You want to find some kind of a solution. Okay, what do you do? Not shalosh. You have to go over it with shovels, whatever your implements are. If you can get a bulldozer, that's good, and take away 3 tvachim of the surface, or nosen al gabav shlosh tvachim, or come back with new soil. 3 tvachim of new soil and dump it on top. And you know what's even amazingly surprising, what's even more surprising is that you could take half of the field and dig up 3 tvachim and take those 3 tvachim and put them on the other side, and that's also considered being the tahar, the base of press. Interesting. Rabbi Shimon Omer afilu natal mimena tefach umechza. You could even take 1.5 tvachim and put on the other side that 1.5 tvachim, and that would also be tahor, which is also gross chiddush. But I think it's even bigger chiddush than the previous one. I do not think that the halach is going. Yeah, the halach is not like Rabbi Shimon. I wrote safe base pras avanim. So if somebody paves the base of press with stones that won't move when you walk on them, that's tahor. At least that path is tahor. Right? Because once you've got proper paving stones and you're not going to move any sand, then there's no chashash, because again, you don't have ohel tuma from these bones. All you've got is touching and moving. And once you've eliminated the possibility of touching or moving the tuma, you're fine. Rabbi Shimon Omer afa ozek beisa pras tahor. Ozek is digging up the whole base of pras and throwing stones, and getting rid of the stones, because so he's basically saying, if you take the stones from the one side and put them all onto the other side. What does Art Scroll explain about Rabbi Shimon here at the end?
It says he says even someone who holds the base kapras makes the tahor.
The what?
We know. He says Rabbi Shimon says even someone who holds the base kapras makes the tahor.
Right. Okay, so hoeing it makes it tahor. Okay, what does the commentary say?
Let me see. It said all cases. Rabbi Shimon maintains that if someone hold the entire base kapras field and remove stones as he was hoeing, he rendered the base kapras tahor. In Rabbi Shimon's opinion, since the farmer was removing all the stones in the field while hoeing it, we can assume that he would have found any bone chips in the field, even though he was not looking
Because
specifically for bones.
he's being Bodek. It's effectively like he's checked the entire surface and removed any bones.
Right. He says, therefore, the field can be considered tahor.
Okay, good. Right, you're Dalit Vav.
Someone, oh, that's you, right? Yeah. Isn't that you?
No, it's you. You're Chazar now.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going one more. Okay. You're Dalit. You're Dalit Vav. In a case where the ledges are a handbreadth wide and there is no handbreadth between them, if tuma is underneath them becomes tummy. If there is tuma between them or above them, opposite up to the sky becomes tummy. If the ledges were less than a handbreadth wide, tuma penetrates upward and downward regardless of whether there is a handbreadth between them or not, and regardless of whether tuma is underneath, between, or above. The same rule applies to two curtains that are a cube handbreadth above the ground. A thick garment and a thick beam do not spread tumor unless they are a handbreadth above the ground. If two garments are folded one on top of the other, tumor does not spread unless the upper one is more than a handbreadth above the ground. Wooden tablets, one above the other, do not spread tumor unless the uppermost hand is upper one is a handbreadth above the ground. But if they are made of marble, tumor penetrates directly up and directly down. Okay. If in the case of wooden tablets,
No.
a handbreadth.
We're done.
No, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Okay. So I'm going to take 10 seconds and fill my glass with water because I don't have enough. Okay. Barley corn.
I forgot to restart.
A quarter cup of bones that was crushed so that no bone is the size of a barley corn. Reb Shimon rules a tahor, but they can come in room with tameh. A limb severed from a living person that was divided into two is tahor. Reb Yossi declares it tameh, but he agrees that if the limb was removed from the living person half at a time, it is tahor. That's like a kiddush over. That's like really strange. I thought once they remove from the person, that's going to be tameh. That's going to be it.
But if it's removed a half at a time, so if it's too small of a sheet. Okay, kinim.
If there was a katos bird for this woman and an ola bird for this one, which mingled together, if the Kohen offered all of them above the red line, half of this pair is valid and half is invalid. If he offered all of them below the red line, half of the pair is valid and half is invalid. If he offered half of the pair above the red line and half below the red line, they both are invalid because I could say that the katos was the one offered above and the ola was the one offered below. If there was a katos bird and an ola bird, as well as an undesignated pair and a designated pair, if he made them all above the red line, half of each of these pairs is valid and half of each of these pairs is invalid. If he made all of them below the red line, half of these pairs is valid and half of these pairs is invalid. If he made half of them above the red line and half of them below, none is valid except for the undesignated pair and the pair that is divided between them. If katos birds mingled with obligatory birds, only the number of katos birds in the obligatory pairs are valid. If the bird offerings in the obligatory bird pairs were twice as many as the katos, half of the offerings are valid and half are invalid. But if the katos birds were twice as many as the bird offerings in the obligatory pairs, the number of offerings equal to the number of birds in the obligatory pairs are valid. Similarly, if all the birds mingle with an equal number of bird offerings in obligatory pairs, only the number of all the birds in the obligatory pairs are valid. If the bird offers in the obligatory pairs were twice as many as the ola birds, half of the offerings are valid, half are invalid. If the ola birds were twice as many as the bird offerings in the obligatory pairs, the number of offerings equal to the number of birds in the obligatory pairs are valid.
Okay, tomorrow we're going to finish kinim and restart kalim.
Kalim again, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Avos. Aleph Gimel.
Dalit. Yossi ben Yoezer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yossi ben Yoezer, the leader of Tadea, says, let your house be a house of more meaning for sages and become dusty in the dust of their feet and drink their words and thirst. Yossi ben Yochanan, the leader of the Yerushalayim, says, let your house be opened wide and paupers should be members of your household and do not converse excessively with women. They said this with regard to one's wife. How much more so does it apply with regard to the wife of another? From here, the sages say, whenever a person converses excessively with a woman, he causes evil to himself and neglects Torah study and ultimately will inherit Gehenna. Yeshua ben Beraka and Nita of Narbo received a Masorah from them. Yeshua ben Prakya says, make a teacher for yourself, purchase a field for yourself, and judge a person favorably. Judge every person favorably. Okay. Vamos. Okay, Vav Beit. Yeah, similarly, if one cohabits with any one of the areas forbidden in the
No, no,
Torah,
no. We're on Yevamos Vav Aleph.
I went too far. Okay. One who cohabitates with his Yavama, whether mistakenly or wantonly, whether coerced or willingly, even if he was mistaken and she was wanton, or he was wanton and she was mistaken, or coerced her, but she was not, or she was coerced, but he was not, whether the union was only partial or complete, he has acquired her. There's no distinction between the forms of a habitation. Similarly, if one cohabitates with any of the aroused forbidden in the Torah and those to qualify for marriage, for example, a widow to a Kohen Gadol, a divorcee, a kalutza to an ordinary Kohen, a mamzeres or a Nissanite to a Yisrael, a daughter of Yisrael to a mamzer or a Nissanite, if he has disqualified her. There's no distinction between the forms of cohabitation. A widow who is married to a Kohen Gadol, a divorcee, a kalutza, was married to an ordinary Kohen, even if they were only betrothed, they may not eat truma. Reb Elazar and Reb Shimon, however, validated if they were widowed or divorced, it was if it was for marriage, they are disqualified, but if from betrothal, they are qualified.
And
Okay.
Shabbos
Okay, Shavias, Dalad Beit,
Aleph.
right? A
Dalet
field which
Aleph.
was clean.
Dalet Aleph, Berisha.
Why I keep going one ahead?
Oh,
At first they said, must be the water. At first they said a man may gather wood and stones and herbs from his own, just as he may gather from his neighbors. The large ones. When the number of transgressions increased, they decreed that one should gather from the other, and not as a favor, but needless to say, stipulated the allocation of food. A field which is cleaned of thistles may be sown in the 8th year. One which is improved or was used as a cattle fold may not be sown in the 8th year. A field which was improved, Beit Shammai said, one may not eat of its fruit in the 7th year, but Beit Hillel says one may eat. Beit Shammai says one may not eat the fruit of the 7th year as a favor. Beit Hillel said one may eat it whether or not he regards it as a favor. Beit Yehuda says turn it around. This is one of the leniency of the Beit Shammai and traditions of Beit Hillel. Newly plowed land may be rented from a non-Jew in the 7th year, but not from a Jew. And one may encourage non-Jews in the 7th year, but not Jews, and one greets them for the sake of peace.
Okay, and we're done.
Good. And we'll be back again. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Stay